Yorks cast are nonsense, virgins, retards who don't give a giant shit about these bars. I go to the house and punch them in their jaws. If Corona said it wasn't against these laws, so instead I made the world's greatest podcast. You were listening to the Cheesecast. That's about all I have. We're much more funnier than New York's cast too. Yeah, that's cool.
Our first album with classics such as My Name Is and the other Dr. Dre song.
Guilty Conscience.
Yeah.
I think the first thing we should talk about is Ben's disdain for Eminem, and that anything that comes out of his voice is instantly biased. I quite like his first album, to be fair. I think it's quite good. I think there are a few songs that sound fairly similar with somewhat similar beats, but as an album as a whole, it's very solid. I mean, you consider that's obviously his debut. Did very well. I don't think he won. Didn't Will Smith beat him to an award that year, and it really pissed him off or something?
Probably.
So yeah, I think very good album. My favourite song is probably My Fault, just because the story makes me laugh.
Okay, so let's go to the second album, which is pretty much a classic. We all know it. I am Slim Shady, yes I'm the real Shady, are you ever Slim Shady to just imitating?
That's the song that got me into Eminem, to be fair, mate.
I think mine was Without Me or Lose Yourself. Got to be another one.
I think the Marshall Mathers LP is easily his best, and I don't think anyone would disagree with that statement.
Yeah, one of his best.
I think Stan is the best song he's written.
Stan is beautiful, to be fair. I mean, it's either Marshall Mathers or the next album, which is the Eminem Show.
This is an interesting one, because the Eminem Show is probably my personal favourite.
Yeah.
Mainly because I think the start with White America Business, Cleaning Out My Closet, and the Square Dance is such a strong start.
Yeah, it is.
But this is the first album where I think he starts to show a little bit of weakness. So Drips isn't a great song. Say Goodbye Hollywood, also not a great song. But I feel like, you've also got stuff like Till I Collapse, My Dad's Gone Crazy, and Superman, which is a bit more controversial, but I quite like it. And obviously Without Me, that kind of cover up the few cracks that, in my opinion, start to show in this album.
And of course the song with Dre, because all of his songs with Dre just are so good. Or most of them, I think.
Say What You Say is probably one of my least favourite with Dre, to be fair. It's not bad, but I didn't really like the hook.
Fair enough. I mean, to be fair, it's not that good of a hook, but
I actually think,
still like
surprisingly, some of Dre's features on Relapse were probably a lot better, just because they felt more sort of how Dr. Dre and Eminem bounce off each other than Say What You Say. But it's not a bad song, not at all.
Yeah, I thought it was quite good. I feel like it was lacking something. Next album. The one where he does the fart song or the sixth song or whatever it was.
This is the called Puke, isn't it?
The one with Brian May on it. I mean, Brian May's alright, but he doesn't save the song. To say the least.
I think this is where you start to see Eminem decide to take his own direction and start making the music that he wants to make.
Yeah.
And that's not to everyone's taste. This album divides me of where I put it in terms of his all-time ranking, which I'll try and state for you at the end, because this had, in my opinion, some very good songs like Toy Soldiers, Rain Man, One Shot, Two Shot. I think were all very. Oh, and Mockingbird. Mockingbird, one of my favourites when I was younger. Very, very good songs. But then, as you say, it's got stuff like Puke. Just Lose It, I think, is really overhyped by people who say this is a good song. It's not. I don't think it's a good song at all. And yeah, like Arse Like That, Big Weenie, it's really, really inconsistent, this album.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it's probably, in terms of direction, his worst album. There are worse albums, but like, for instance, Relapse and Recovery both had very strong ideas of where they want to go.
Yeah.
And although Relapse was fairly questionable, it was very consistent throughout the album. I think he was a bit divided here.
Yeah. This album's a bit all over the place, but it has a really strong start to it, I think.
Oh, Never Enough is one of the top Eminem songs.
Yeah, Never Enough, Evil Deeds, Yellow Brick Road, like Toy Soldiers and Mosh were really good. Of course, Mockingbird.
I think it's a weaker start though than the Eminem show.
No,
it's good,
definitely.
It's weaker. Mockingbird is a tune though. I absolutely love Mockingbird.
So then it's Relapse, which I did like. But
are we going into Relapse? So we're not talking about the re-up or his.
I haven't really heard the re-up, but what do you think of it?
Just quickly, I really like the re-up. It's probably. I sometimes think Eminem is at his best when he's not the only voice on an album, because he is slightly whiny at times. This came out just after Curtain Call, which we just should only mention is Why Would You Release a greatest hits album, maybe a third of the way into your career, but whatever. But this album has basically a lot of his famous rapper buddies, 50 Cent. Obi Trice, all the standard names. Nate Dogg, who I think is a very underrated artist. Nate Dogg.
He's quite good on some of the. Yeah, he's really good, exceptional on the songs I've heard him on. Not good.
I think my all-time favorite Eminem song is on Curtain Call. I think it's Shake That. I think it was released as an extra track on Curtain Call, and that features Nate Dogg, and I think Nate Dogg is insane in that.
Yeah.
That song, but we'll move on to Relapse, I guess.
Okay.
Relapse is it's probably the one where I'm most controversial, because I actually really quite enjoy it.
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
I know that a lot of people think it's a bad album, and he twists words and he has that weird accent. But to me, his whole oh, I'm a psychopath, I'm gonna murder everyone, weird statements that he makes in this album in various songs is kind of one of the reasons I like him. The shock factor that he tries to reproduce in this album, I think, is very similar to the Slim Shady LP. So I really like that. I mean, Old Time's Sake, We Made You, Bagpipes for Baghdad are very, very good songs. Crack a Bottle is on this album, and people forget Crack a Bottle is a very good song.
Yeah.
I do feel though, Beautiful, I think that's the right song. The one where he goes with like a meaningful and talking about walking a mile in someone else's shoes shouldn't be on this album. It's so out of place. Like, and I think this is the first album where the skits get quite weird.
They do.
I don't. There is a Paul skit, but then there's the Mr. Mathers skit that is properly odd. And I also think at this point, he has Steve Berman and Paul Rosenberg on every album, and I think he starts to run out of ideas, and there it kind of gets a bit. As a trait that we'll see soon with Eminem, it kind of gets a bit tiring seeing the same skits again and again, like rehashed.
Yeah.
I think some of my favourite songs from this album are actually on Relapse Refill.
Yeah, definitely. The Dr.
So
Dre collab there was really good. And
yeah,
also
Elevator
My Darling.
and Drop the Bomb on Them and Darling and Careful What You Wish For. I think that it's really surprising that these songs were chosen to go on the B side over some of the songs.
Eminem just kills it.
I don't know why some of these songs were chosen in the order they were, but so I only actually listened to a Relapse Refill. I think it's a much better album.
Yeah. Should we go on to Recovery?
Sure thing. Again, probably in the same way that Relapse is the one that I like the most. Surprisingly, this is probably the one I like the least. Not personally in terms of like compared to where everyone rates it, because a lot of people said that this was like Eminem's recovery, you know, or his comeback or whatever, and I felt it was very samey all the way through, and it was very pandering to the popularity market, and that's why people liked it.
I think
so.
Because
pardon?
songs like Not Afraid are on this, and they are good, but they are very, like as you just said, poppy, stadium ready kind of. We're gonna make this a football chant type song.
Yeah, I mean, Love the Way You Lie, which is a very, very good song. I don't want to discredit him for it, but it is totally a chart pop tune.
Yeah,
it's a good song, but it's targeted that way, and that's the lead single. I think that was the lead single.
I think it was. Yeah.
My favourite song on this is So Bad. To be fair, I think So Bad is actually a good song. Also, this is the first album where you start to see, and we'll definitely touch on it later, him starting to be like, "Oh, I'm the GOAT. Stop coming for me."
Yeah.
Because by this point, he's got chinks in his armor, if you like. Because after the first three albums, everyone thought he was genuinely going to be insane because they were all very good. And I think it's in You're Never Over, which is his tribute to Proof, who's dead at this point. He says something about how he's gonna like prove to everyone how good he is or something, and it's like that's quite about how does it go. But yeah, it's not a lot of the songs are average. I can listen to a lot of them, but I wouldn't say I like too many on that album. I just feel like it's not very Eminem, that album.
Nah, not really. Also, I think Curtain Call was made because of what he was going through before he made Relapse, if that makes sense. Because I think he thought he was gonna die, so he thought before he would release this.
Well, it was because he was addicted to Xanax and Ambien, and he was basically popping loads of pills. And I think it was 2007, he was supposed to release an album called King Mathers, an album that we've never seen. And he OD'd or that Christmas and nearly died. He talks about it later.
Yeah, he does in Relapse and Revival. I think he even he does.
We're going to move on to my favourite album. It's the first album that I remember listening to when it came out. It's also, I think, if you remove the first three albums, which we're going to all accept they're the best three, I think this is his best of the rest. And I don't think it's close. I think Bad Guys kind of annoying because it's just a remix of Stan, and that feels again like he's clawing onto the past. But
I think I remembered that instrumental when I heard it. I just didn't know where from. So
that middle bit is quite nice, where he does homage back to Stan, but the song around that's not great. Rhyme or Reason's so much better. Survival, Legacy, Arsehole, Berserk, Rap God.
Rap God is one of his very good songs.
I think Rap God is one of his best songs, but also kind of gave him this idea that he needs a super fast rapping song on every album, which isn't why this song's good. We don't love this song simply because of the speed. It's a bunch of other things. The way, and the way he talks like he references a line. So there's a line on the Marshall Mathers LP1. I'll try and on I'm Back. It's the only line by on an Eminem song that's been censored, even on the uncensored version of his album.
Oh.
And he says the same line in Rap God, and he goes, essentially, they're not going to censor me now because I'm not as big. And so it was the lyrics. He also lists so many. Like there's a bit. I'll find the lyric because I don't want to miss anyone out. But there's a lyric where he references all of his influences, and I really liked that. So yeah, he mentioned Rakim, Lakeem, Shabazz, Tupac, NWA, Ice Cube specifically, Dark as in Dr. Dre, and DOC, sorry, MC Ren, DJ Yella, Eazy-E, and then he also mentions Run DMC a few lines later, and again that's quite nice that he's acknowledging all of the elders that came before him, because DOC obviously ended up just being a lyricist because he couldn't rap because he had a horrible injury that killed his voice. I do want to say though, The Monster is a slightly weaker version of Love the Way You Lie. It's not a perfect album. Love Game, again, I'm not a big fan. First time I heard Kendrick, probably I think was on this song, and he was, bad song. I don't think.
I liked Love.
Do you like it?
Yeah, a bit.
I found it just a bit cringe. I found the tune and especially Kendrick's voice and some of the lyrics just quite. But then it ends song. I think Desperation, Groundhog Day, Beautiful Pain is a great song, and Wicked Ways as well. I think probably got a very strong start and ending. Pardon?
I think those are the bonus tracks. It ends with Evil Twin.
Yeah, but
I've just talked about bonus tracks, so.
I mean, sorry, when I talk about, I tend to only listen to deluxe versions, to be fair.
Now it's time to talk about his worst album.
Now, this is the album where I actually want to talk to James, because me and James have had a discussion about this. Do you punish an artist for trying to go in a different direction, experiment, if it goes wrong? Because this album was definitely him trying something new, something different, and it did not work. But do you punish him for going in a very different direction, or do you applaud him? You don't say it's a good album, but do you give him some respect for trying something new? Because as we say, some of his albums before have been very samey.
Yeah.
Whereas this is definitely completely different to anything he did before.
Yeah, I'd say it is. Yeah, I'd give him credit for trying it.
James, are you gonna come in with a comment at all?
You pretty much hit the nail on the head there. I mean, it's still rubbish, but you have to say at least he gave it a go.
I do have to say, In Your Head, Castle, and A Rose, I very much like. Those final three tracks that kind of all play together, I really like them. I didn't like pretty much anything else.
I loved Castle and a Rose.
That's what I was saying. I think Heat. I believe Heat is the one which he broke the record that he set on Rap God, which is the pointless, super fast song. So I'm not a big fan of that. I remember, I think Walk on Water came out, and I wasn't a huge fan of that. And I think, was it Untouchable came out as another single, and that wasn't great. One thing that upsets me is the Revival Interlude is actually really nice.
Oh, that was produced by Dre.
That was really nice, and I thought that was gonna lead into having some form of that sort of melody into the next song, but it just didn't, and that upset me. I quite like that. This also started the Ed Sheeran bromance where they start going on each other's.
Where
so
Ed Sheeran would have Eminem on one song, he'd have him on the next album.
And then Ed Sheeran appears on Eminem's latest album, and I have a lot to say about that because it confuses
Stepping
me.
Stone as well. Or help.
Ed Sheeran would write Stepping Stone. I doubt that, because Stepping Stone is about the disbandment of D12. So I doubt he wrote that.
No,
but that does bring us on to Kamikaze. Let's bring us on to Kamikaze. Now, Kamikaze is the album that I've been the most wrong about, because I loved it when it came out. I thought, oh my god, he's firing all these shots. This sounds so good. And The Ringer, Greatest, and Lucky You are amazing songs. I felt at the time, I thought those three first songs were very strong.
I thought they were.
And then you have Not Alike, Kamikaze, and The Fool, which are again three other very strong songs. And I remember listening to time being like, this is the old Eminem, he's back. The only issue I have is it was a shock factor because this was a proper secret release album. Everyone was like, oh my god, how did he do this? Because I believe me and James have talked about how secret releases and keeping everything under wraps was very hard, because even Arctic Monkeys' Tranquility Base had leaked, and they had never really leaked before. So it was kind of like a shock factor. But when you go back and listen now, it sounds very like, oh wow, he's calling this, and it just sounds a little bit sad and like, hey dude, this is 2018 at this point, you've been around for 20 years. It sounds a little bit pathetic.
I do still appreciate Kamikaze though. And
I think Ringer is still a great song. I think The Ringer is such a strong song.
I think Kamikaze's quite a strong song as well. Like, I just really love that flow.
I like the intro where it blows up the plane. I also think Fool doesn't get enough credit for the beat. The beat on Fool is very nice.
Yeah, it's quite nice.
I don't think we need to talk about Venom because that's obviously for a motion picture. And the two songs with Jesse Reyes, I think Jesse Reyes is nice in them. I just don't think Eminem's particularly strong in either of them.
I didn't think they were that good.
As I say, I think she's nice, but I don't think he's great. But apparently he heard her on the TV and was like, I want to work with her or something. Those are her songs. I think she had one of them. I think maybe it was Nice Guy, was already like a song she had written and he featured in, and then they wrote Good Guy to complement it. I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. That was in the Sway 45 interview he did after Kamikaze dropped. And the last thing I want to say is I will not forgive him for his disrespect for Tyler, the Creator, in this album.
No.
At no point should a man who's been around for 20 years and is now one of the most influential people in the genre start taking shots at a younger, newer kid. That's just completely wrong, and I don't care that he went back and scrubbed it. I think that's honestly bad.
Wasn't that in Full that he did as well?
What?
You said it in Full.
Yeah, I think it was. It's just not acceptable, isn't it?
I don't really appreciate him for doing that. That's why Full isn't in my favourite songs.
That's a hard one for me, because I get that, but Fool is a song, apart from the literally 5 seconds of that one lyric, is in my opinion a good song.
It is good, but that lyric just kind of shouldn't
that's
be
probably the first time that I went, Eminem, you've done wrong here. Like, I didn't think that was okay. And also, whilst we're on Kamikaze, we'll probably have to talk about Killshot versus Rap Devil.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So I've looked into this a lot, because I got very annoyed because a lot of people thought Rap Devil was a better diss track.
No,
and it's not.
It's
a better song because it's designed to be a song, but that's not a diss track. Killshot, Eminem won that battle. I mean, it was never going to be in doubt. Eminem is, in my opinion, the greatest battle rapper of all time, because because that's what he grew up on. He came up through that scene. He went to the Rap Olympics. That's where he gave the tape to the guy, and then Jimmy Iovine and Dre listened to him. So I think MGK was an idiot. I've also watched. I have to give credit. There was this guy on YouTube. He did about 6 videos at the time, and they were called "What's Bad About Rap Devil," "What's Good About Rap Devil," "What's Bad About Killshot," "What's Good About Killshot," and he did another one which breaks them all down. And he went into a lot of analysis on them, so I have to give him a lot of credit. Like,
was it the
he
Pop
showed a
Song
lot of good
Professor?
points.
Or not?
No.
Okay.
I'll try and find the videos and for you, and I'll send a link to the guy later that maybe you can put up in the comments. I'll try and find it. But there's one in particular where he breaks them down into like quality of the diss, like multiple layered rhyming schemes, and types of diss. I think like whether they were superficial, whether they were embedded, and that's really good. The only other thing I should say is, I heard some people at the time say that the line in Rap Devil where he's like, "Oh, your beard is weird," is a reference to Business, one of Eminem's best songs, where he goes, "Me and Dre will grow beards and be weird." It's not at all. It was nowhere near that clever. It was a really stupid, superficial diss at the fact Eminem had a beard at the time. Okay, moving on to Music to be Murdered by, Ben.
I loved this album pretty much.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've listened to this album 4 times. They were all on the release date, and I haven't listened to it since. But I do remember making a long paragraph at the time. I'm not going to lie to you. I think it's unaccommodating. The one that references the Ariana Grande concert terrorist attack is an awful song. I think
that one's not good.
I thought he's fucked this album from that song alone. But I'll be honest. After that, a lot of the songs were very good.
Yeah.
I think Godzilla, Yaya were insane. I think Lock It Up and No Regrets were great. I liked I Will. Do you know what the song that really bugged me was Those Kind of Nights? And I referenced this earlier. I really like Those Kind of Nights. But Ed Sheeran shouldn't be on this song. You can remove his little hook thing he does, and it's a better song. He's been crammed on this song because of his deal with Eminem or whatever they're doing. So I think that was shocking. I think Juice WRLD was insane on Godzilla.
Yeah, he was good.
Very, very good. I have to give him a lot of credit. I do think Music to be Murdered by, I have a lot more respect for him than anything else he did since the Marshall Mathers LP2
years.
Definitely. There's also, because he did a bunch of shitty features like Rainy Days, Homicide.
Yeah.
There was the one. What was the one in Ed Sheeran collaborations number 6 that him and 50 went with? 50 remember the name.
50 Cent.
And there was
really bad.
Yeah, and there was another one he released which was also bad, and then he also did. I'll try and find the list of his. He did another one very recently that I really didn't like, where he was trying to reference not the Adventures of Moon Man and Slim. There was one before that where he referenced an old beef with Mariah Carey and Nick, whatever that guy's name is, and I was like, oh, just shut the fuck up, stop trying to do that. Yeah. So I like the album, but it's much better than any other feature he's done. But I still wouldn't put it. I'd maybe put it fifth overall, personally, definitely. 5th or 6th.
I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Like
8 out of 10 is very kind. I think if you give it an 8, you don't have much room to go for Marshall Mathers or Slim Shady. I would have given it more like a 6.
Oh, okay.
Because I would have put Marshall Mathers at a 10, Slim Shady and Eminem Show at 9. Marshall Mathers LP2 maybe an 8. Oh, you know what? So this could be a 7. Yeah, I'd give that a 7. And then Relapse 7 or 6. Recovery 5 because it's just middle of the road, boring. What else we got? Encore. Yeah, that's like maybe a 3 or a 4. And I'll give Revival a 3, and I'll give Encore a 4. Kamikaze also sits at a 4.
Yeah.
For me, I think I would give Revival a lower mark, but again, I'm going to give him a little bit of respect for his approach.
Okay. I think songs like, I think almost every single song on Music to Be Murdered By was good. Especially Brutal Engine, Lock It Up. I think Yaya was pretty good. Of course, Godzilla.
The only two that I didn't like were. I did like the intro because the premonition intro was also a little bit of a song in itself, which was a bit odd.
I Will was
and Unaccommodating
well.
I didn't like. I do like, I was talking earlier about the skits. I thought the skits in this were very original and very nice. I liked Alfred in it. I thought that was very nice. I thought that had a nice feel and rounding of the album. So I give this. This is a solid album. I'd give it. I'd give it, as I say, a 7. I think that's a solid ranking.
As if it wasn't an Eminem album, I think I'd give it an 8. But as an Eminem album, if we're ranking them, 6 or a 7.
This is the thing that's fascinating about Eminem, and I was debating with a friend of mine a while back about, is Eminem better than Kendrick? And the one thing I said that I think everyone who comments on Eminem needs to be aware of is he's kind of his own downfall, because his first 3 albums were so essentially perfect, there was nowhere to go. And everything else has been compared to that super high bar he's set himself. So you look at, Recovery, which is an average album, Music to Be Murdered By, Kamikaze, Relapse, these other albums, Encore probably suffers the worst from it. But you hit the nail on the head when you say they're not as good because they're an Eminem album. And I think that sometimes when we comment on, especially him, when I see a lot of, people today who don't like him for whatever reason commenting on him, I think you have to remember that you are holding him to such a high bar. Whereas someone like, Kendrick, who I very much respect, his first album was a bunch of mixtapes and demos, right?
Yeah.
What was it? So he didn't have the same instant start. I mean, he did, to be fair, do Good Kid, Mad City and To Pimp a Butterfly, which were insane.
I think those were like his second and third album.
Yeah, and that's when, and I'd say To Pimp a Butterfly was significantly better than Good Kid, Mad City, which is not a bad album. But they weren't even widely regarded artists like Kendrick never had the same level of instant out of the gate impact, quality, and like high level albums that I feel Eminem has. The only other person I could think of is maybe, do you remember 50 Cent's first album?
No, I haven't heard 50 Cent yet. I think I
so
need
50
to.
Cent's he was found by Eminem and Dre, but his first album is that Live or Die Trying. Let me find it. He has so many Get Rich or Die Trying. That is another one where you're like, whoa, this is a very good album. But he followed it up with not great albums. So it's not quite the same. But yeah, I think that's one thing that, when we finish talking about Eminem, we do have to acknowledge is he set the bar so high for himself. Even with stuff like, I think my favourite ever song is a Mariah Carey diss. Let me pull it up for you. The Warning by Mariah Carey. I think there's one called Nail in the Coffin on who is that one on? Oh, I can't remember who that was on, to be fair, but he did a lot of very good diss tracks in the mid-noughties as well, which I found was very strange, that his albums weren't as consistent. He took a big gap, but he had very good diss tracks as well, so, you know, I think he set his own standards so high that that's caused some damaging analysis of his follow-up albums.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've covered, to be fair, that's probably way more detailed than we needed to go on Eminem.
Although, like Toy Soldiers really made me feel something when I heard it. It's just that sample, whatever it was like, wow.
I think the black kid in the music video is supposed to resemble Proof, and the white kid's supposed to resemble Eminem. Like, it's a colloquial thing, I believe. But again, a lot of people have had debates over what this song means because it came out before Proof got shot. So it's not about Proof being shot.
No.
So a lot of people have debated the meaning, but it's a good song idea.
Yeah.
All right.